look at ground baits today. One of the most common questions that I get asked, and I know a lot of other anglers get asked, both at matches or after matches and also on the various threads and forums, is what ground bait do you use and why do you use it, or what mix did you use today? Well, to be honest with you, that's an easy question to answer, because you can just tell somebody exactly what you used. And if they go and mix up exactly the same thing and sit on your peg on exactly the same day in exactly the same condition, it will work the same and they'll catch fish. But the problem is, what if the conditions aren't the same? What if it's colder, if there's more flow in the water, etc.? The key to understanding ground bait and to actually being successful with ground bait is actually knowing what it does. And basically, most of my mixes that I use for most of my natural water venues centre around a few different types of ground bait. And that's not because I think they're the best ground bait in the world for those venues, or indeed because I'm not sponsored by Sensors. But I use them because of their versatility, because I know what they do. I've used them a lot. I mean, a couple of the mixes I've been using since I first started fishing in the early 70s. And I therefore understand what I can do with them and what I can make them do for me in different circumstances. So basically, the mixes that I tend to use tend to be based around a few different ground baits. First of all, Sensus Lake. Either the black one or the brown version. Okay, really versatile ground bait, nice and fine, not too much feed content, very active if you mix it just before you start, but if you mix it earlier, and we'll talk about that a bit later in one of the later videos, you can actually knock all the activity out of it and have a very inert mix. I used to use it with roach, but more recently I've started using Gross Gardon's fine mature with it, because basically it's roach with a bit more activity, a few more particles, a bit more hemp shells, hemp seed, etc. in it. And what you can do is you can use it like this on its own, or with the other mixes on a really nice warm summer's day when you want lots of activity, don't mind too much food content, you want to draw fish in and hold them there. But on the days when it's a bit harder and you don't want so much feed in, you don't want to put so much ground bait in, you can put this through either a pinky riddle or a flower sieve, and you can take all the bits out and again reduce the activity, reduce the feed content. It's quite a sticky mix, which means that when mixed with the lake you can add a lot of particles to it. You can add a lot of loose feed, maggots, pinkies, casters and other bits and pieces to the mix to get more feed down to hold the fish in your peg. In the winter, when it's a bit harder, I tend to substitute the lake really for canal, super canal, fine, mature. Again, lower feed content, less activity, really good ground bait, had a lot of success with this over the years. And it says canals, but when you see canal written on a bag of continental ground bait, don't be afraid to use this in deeper water. It does tend to be a little bit more sticky, because canals in Europe tend to be much bigger. They tend to be more like the Gloucester Canal or the New Junction Canal in North Yorkshire. So not your traditional 3 foot, 4 foot deep UK canal. And finally, if the river's towing, if it's towing a bit, or there's a lot of wind or something, or I want a lot more stickier mix, then I'll go for river. And I'll use it on all sorts of places. I use it on lakes. If there's going to be a lot of tow, or I need a stickier mix to hold more particles and get it catapulted out further, then this works pretty well. You'll notice there's no feeder mixes here. Don't tend to fish the feeder a lot, so I'm not talking about feeder mixes today. This is primarily for the pole. So basically, that's the majority, the basis of most of my mixes. And I'll add a few bits and pieces here and there, some additives, or some Leam, TDR, Terre de Rivière, or topsoil or molehill soil and grey leam, and use those to actually bulk it out, reduce the feed content, or make it heavier or cloudier. So that's basically what I use for 90% of my fishing on canals, slow rivers, etc., or rivers. But why do I use them? Well, basically, I think you need to strip it back to why we use ground baits. We only really use ground baits for two main reasons: to attract fish into your peg and to keep them there, to allow you to catch them. So what you don't want to do is, if you're attracting fish in your peg, that's working on either a big cloud for sight, so the fish sight find your bait in clear water, or its activity, so there's lots of particles coming up and drawing fish in from further afield and it keeps working longer, or it's basically scent, and all of these have a nice smell. So partly scent, sight, and then and clouds for security and attractant. The thing you need to think about with that is colour. I mentioned before the black and the brown, but a really bright ground bait, if you've got lots of predators in the water, sometimes small fish are not comfortable to sit over a light coloured ground bait, where they'll quite confidently sit over something that's closer to the natural colour of the bottom. So that's something else to think about. What's the natural colour of the bottom, and can you match it either by using ground baits or adding soils? And then the other thing is keeping them in your peg. Now clearly you need enough activity and food in the ground bait to keep them there. But what you don't want to do is put lots and lots of feed content and then find that the fish get fed off, they've eaten it, everything they want, and they just drift away. So everything's a balance. And that's why whenever you're using ground bait, the most important thing to do is to get used to a ground bait. Pick a couple of ground baits, really get to know them, use them a lot, mix them up in different ways, practice and use them on different conditions, and eventually you'll get so confident with those ground baits you can make them do just about anything. Now, over the next few months, I've got some new ground baits from Colmick to test, so over the next few months I'm going to be using these new ground baits, and I'm going to be starting again. So what I've got is I've got a whole case I've ordered of Extreme Match, which I'll be mixing up in various different ways to see what it does and what I can make it do. And it smells very sort of spicy mix, a bit like a cross between a roach and a lake. And then Match Winner, and when this one comes out, again it's very vanilla-y. You can see it's a very bright ground bait. It's a typical German style, continental style bream ground bait, but it's quite fine. So it's got some particles in it. I think there's quite a lot of bits in there that I can see that are probably going to swell up quite a lot. But I'm going to have a go with those. This will probably be darker when it finally comes out, but it started off light so we can add colorants to it and try it. But I'll be doing, basically, if you're new to ground bait, exactly with these two mixes over the next few months, exactly what you'll be doing, or what you should be doing with these, and that's just get out there on the bank, get a few bags of ground bait. You don't need to mix a whole bag up. A whole bag of ground bait's an awful lot of ground bait for most venues, natural venues. Half a bag of ground bait, mix it with some soil from topsoil, and we'll talk about soils in another video, and get out there and see what you can get it to do. Don't be afraid of ground baits, and don't get confused by everything. Yes, you can buy something with a picture of a roach on the front, and if you use it every day you might catch some roach, but they're not all right for every occasion. You need to really get to know what they do if you're going to get the best out of your ground bait, and it's going to help you win more matches. So look forward to seeing you out on the bank, and enjoy your fishing and enjoy experimenting.